We look at the pyramids and think, how did they build that? Well, thousands of workers, decades of effort and engineering genius gets a marvel of human achievement. But here's the thing, humans never stop building marvels. We just stop noticing. This plastic fork costs 3 cents, and it required more human cooperation than the pyramids. The mold that stamps this out cost $100,000. The machine that runs it cost $500,000. But that's just the equipment. This fork started as crude oil pulled from miles underground. Between 2014 and 2019, 479 people died extracting oil in the U.S. alone. The oil crosses oceans to refineries, gets boiled into vapor, flash heated to 850 degrees for 1/10 of a second. Through chemistry we only mastered in the last few decades, it becomes plastic. 40 billion of these are made every year. In the time it took me to say that sentence, 9,000 more just appeared. A 3-cent fork. Built on top of deaths, chemistry, global shipping, and million-dollar machines. Look at something even simpler. An aluminum can. 200 billion made every year. Every detail was perfected over decades. But why a cylinder? Why not a sphere? Engineers tested spheres. Less metal, no weak points. But they roll off tables and don't stack. They tested cubes. Perfect packing, zero wasted space. But corners are weak points, and you'd need thicker metal. Plus, try drinking from a cube. The cylinder was the answer. Years of engineering just to pick the shape. The can starts as a flat disc thinner than a magazine cover, shaped into a complete can in 1/17 of a second. Over time, engineers made the top 6 millimeters smaller. That tiny change saved enough aluminum to build 50,000 cars every year. The genius. You can stand on a full can and it won't break. But you can crush an empty one instantly. The liquid inside is pressurized. Makes it rigid like inflating a balloon. Here's another problem they solved. Coca-Cola is so acidic it would eat through aluminum in 3 days. So chemists invented protective linings. Not one lining, 15,000 different formulations. Coca-Cola needs different chemistry than Red Bull, orange juice different than beer. Months of work for each one, different teams solving different problems. And none of this existed 150 years ago. The aluminum can is actually a newer invention than the light bulb. Now look at something we think is ancient, a pencil. In 1795, France needed pencils for their armies, maps, orders, battle plans. The best graphite came from one mine in England, and France was at war with England. Britain made graphite theft a felony, flooded the mine tunnels to stop thieves, nations at war over pencils. France tried making substitutes, low-grade graphite mixed with wax. It was scratchy and tore through paper. The French government commissioned an engineer. He mixed low-grade graphite with potter's clay, created a paste, pressed it into sticks, fired it in a kiln, solved in days. We still use his method 2 centuries later. But even after solving the chemistry, pencils weren't simple. In the 1890s, a German company called Faber made the world's best pencils. Higher quality, lower price than anyone. But they were still losing money. Because American companies had patents on manufacturing machinery. Germany couldn't use it. The U.S. put a 30% tariff on German pencils. American schools were forbidden from buying foreign ones. In 1917, the U.S. government seized Faber's American factory, sold it to American companies. A pencil you buy for 50 cents was shaped by wars, patents, tariffs, and factory seizures. Here's what gets me. The pyramids were built by one civilization. The pyramids took 20 years and 100,000 workers. But look at something we use once and throw away like a fork, which took centuries upon centuries of cumulative knowledge of humanity. Or take something even simpler, a toaster. Why do toasters exist? A pan toasts bread fine. In the early 1900s, electrical companies had a problem: high demand at night, almost no demand during the day. Power plants ran 24 hours burning expensive fuel. Nobody was using electricity during the day. So they hired product designers. The job was to invent appliances people would use during daytime. The toaster was one of the first. Toasters weren't invented to help you make breakfast. They were invented so power companies could sell you more electricity. And not only that, but just a $6 toaster contains 400 components. Nickel from Russia refined in Finland. Copper from Chile processed in China. Iron from Brazil turned into steel thousands of miles away. Hundreds of engineers coordinating across continents. Just to toast bread. The pyramids were one civilization working together for 20 years. A toaster required chemists, designers, manufacturers, propaganda, relentless modern advertising tactics, and scientists across decades. These aren't just objects. They're civilizations stacked on top of civilization. Every fork contains the knowledge of petroleum engineers and polymer chemists. Every can contains centuries of metallurgy and industrial design. Every pencil contains wars and smuggling operations and patent fights. No single human understands how to make any of these from scratch, not even close. Growing the wood for a pencil requires forestry knowledge. Felling the tree requires axe skills. Making the axe requires blacksmithing passed down through generations. Every step hides 100 more. The pyramids took 20 years and 100,000 workers. This 3-cent fork took 10,000 years of accumulated knowledge and millions of coordinating people. The pyramids are marvels because we can see them, but marvels surround you constantly and are invisible to you. You're holding one right now. You're wearing several. You're sitting on dozens.